Well, the Boston Celtics win the NBA Finals. What does this mean for the Denver Nuggets? Do they have, in fact, the blueprint of what the Nuggets need to do? Also, we're going to talk about Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown win their first rings. Did this solidify them as the best duo in the league? Are there some things that Jokic and Murray are going to have to pick up come playoff time to be able to reclaim that title? We're going to talk about all that and more here at Locked On Nuggets.
You are Locked On Nuggets, your daily Denver Nuggets podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's going on? Welcome to Locked On Nuggets. This is your host, Swiper. This is your team every day. Shout out to y'all. Thank y'all so much for being here, celebrating a new NBA champion, Boston Celtics. They absolutely dismantled the Dallas Mavericks last night in one of the best collective team wins for the Boston Celtics this whole playoff run. They put together a really impressive stretch of basketball to go 16-3 on their way to their first title since the 2008 Kevin Garnett, Paul Pierce, Rajon Rondo, Ray Allen-led Boston Celtics team. Y'all, this is going to be an incredible episode, y'all. We are sponsored and brought to you today by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $200 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. And as you might see, we are welcome today with a special guest, the one, the only, the man, the myth, the legend, Ryan Blackburn, a.k.a. Ryan Chartburn, a.k.a. as known as by Jamal Murray, a.k.a. as known as Michael Malone. This is the man himself. Ryan, what's going on with you, brother? How are you feeling today?
I'm doing all right, my guy. Just vibing out here for the first day of the official offseason for the NBA. Very interesting. Finally have a champion that is crowned. Also a new Locked On Nuggets intro. That was an interesting little touch there. Very nice. Yep. Looks good.
W branding. Well, yeah, let's just tap into it, man. You know, the Celtics, the KP trade, letting go of Marcus Smart, getting Drew Holiday back. They did the things that you need to do.
Undoubtedly.
The Nuggets. Go ahead.
I've talked about this on my show a little bit. They did things that they would not have been able to do this year with those aggregation trades, trading for Porzingis, trading for Drew Holiday, and they made some tough decisions. It wasn't easy, but I think the Porzingis trade was pretty easy from a value standpoint, but from a risk standpoint, trading for a guy who had been injury prone and also trading the heart and soul of your team, Marcus Smart, a lot of people were very critical of that move in some respects, but from a value perspective, it was a home run. And then they backed into the Drew Holiday trade, just a massive W for them. They wouldn't have been able to do either of those trades in the what is going to be the new CBA because they couldn't trade multiple contracts together at the same time to aggregate to get a larger one. And that they did it for both.
And they have those players locked in. Those players are going to be there. I mean, really, their top six is coming back. Al Horford said he's coming back for another year. Wow. They're going to be able to get everybody to roll back in. And, you know, Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, you know, let's say Jason Tatum didn't have his best playoff run, but, you know, he's 26 years old now. Jaylen Brown is 27. Like, you know, KP's going to, you know, do some rehab. I think he might have to get some surgery, it looks like. Drew Holiday's going to be back locked in, but then Derek White's going to come back. Like, Sam Hauser, Peyton Pritchard, like, you know, Joe Mazzulla.
Yeah.
They got the guys. They got a lot of people on their roster that make things make sense. And so I think this is a credit to Brad Stevens, obviously, for him to be able to cultivate the amount of talent that they have on the roster and to get them to buy into playing the system with Joe Mazzulla. They deserve all the credit in the world. I think Jason Tatum is the type of star player that he is comfortable with his role. He's comfortable allowing for other players to come into the system and have their shine. Same with JB. They've been there since 2016 and 2017. And I love the fact that the Celtics won with their identity. They led the NBA in three-point shooting by far. And they committed to playing defense the way they want to play defense. They choked out the Navs offense. They didn't let them get those lobs off. They turned off those corner threes. And really, going into the series, Ryan, I did predict that they were going to be able to beat the Mavs in 6, leaning 5. But, man, just a demolition from start to finish. And you really just got a chance to see them play some really high-quality basketball. And, man, I'm really proud of the fact that they've had the young players in the system for as long as they have, and they were able to get it done. There's almost nothing like watching your championship team win with organically grown players. Not obviously everybody on the roster, but especially at the top of the list.
Yeah, and there's also guys like Al Horford, who's not organically grown with them,
Right.
but has been around that system for a long time, multiple stints, and has been an impactful veteran that I think everybody loves seeing win a title. What I will say is that a player like Jason Tatum, I guess we'll talk about this a little bit in the next segment too, he's been criticized a lot in terms of his ability to carry a team by himself. But there is something to be said for him being as malleable as he is, as versatile as he is in doing a variety of different tasks. He can play off ball, he can play on ball, he can defend on ball, he can defend off ball. He's 6'8", he's strong as hell, and he does so many different things really well. Like, he's the ultimate jack of all trades player, but he's so good in so many of those different categories that it's hard to just pigeonhole him as he is and this is going to sound like an insult. It's not. Like, he is the ultimate role player. Like, one of those guys that you need to win a championship. Sometimes you need somebody else to take the big time shots, and they've had so many other guys that could take big time shots. Jaylen Brown, he hit such a massive shot in game 3, I believe, towards the end of that game. But those guys are malleable, and they have allowed for other guys like Drew Holiday, Kristaps Porzingis, Derek White to have their own shine, and it's a credit to them, not a detriment.
Yeah, I think when you define Tatum as a high quality role player in the way that you did, I think that speaks to, it's kind of like Rod Woodson. Rod Woodson, if you know football at all, he was able to play corner, but able to play safety, able to play nickel. He traveled wherever he needed to.
Right.
Boundary corner, field corner. He was a good tackler, could get pass deflections, all that kind of stuff. So I do think that that's a good comparison. I think Tatum being able to play off ball as a defender, off ball as a scorer, be on ball at times. When he started driving in game 5, he really just took over the game, in that third quarter and stuff, especially. So really, man, just like I said, congrats to them. I think JB, what did you think about JB getting Eastern Conference Finals MVP and then Finals MVP? Do you feel like he deserved it and did enough to win that award in your mind?
Yeah, absolutely. I think he leveled up in a lot of different ways during this season, during this playoff run. He got criticized a ton and still is going to get some criticism at times for having the largest contract in the NBA. But he has leveled up. You're a champion
now.
Yeah. And so now, what are you going to say?
Yes, I'm worth every cent now.
Exactly. So I think it is a hallmark of the Celtics, and you titled this "The Celtics Have the Blueprint." It's a hallmark of them that they can have two alpha types who do things in slightly different ways. Jason Tatum will do it in a slightly different way. Jaylen Brown does it in a slightly more aggressive as a scorer kind of way. But both of those guys can do everything on the floor, and they do it extremely well. And so Brown is also that guy, because Tatum is so good, that he's going to receive the lesser matchup in a lot of these cases. And so his ability to shine in those situations, and okay, you're going to tilt your defense too much towards Tatum, or you're going to put your best defender on him. I'll take to task the second best defender on your team and abuse that dude. So it's a credit to those guys and to their team construct and the way that they've built their roster, like with the 5-out spacing, that they have so much room to work with. And a guy like Brown has so much room to shine. Right.
Yeah, y'all, on the other side, we're going to talk about the duos, because now the conversation becomes, have Tatum and Jaylen Brown eclipse even the great Nikola Jokic and Jamal Murray as a duo coming off their first championship ring? Now, we obviously have some opinions on that, but that's what happens when you win a title. There are things that happen over the course of your discourse. Y'all, we're going to talk about all that and more on the other side here at Locked On Nuggets. Y'all, summertime means baseball, the NBA Finals, and more. And you can bet it all on FanDuel. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $200 you can use to bet everything from the NBA Finals MVP to who's going to hit one out of the park. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and add a big win to your summer bucket list. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. We'll be right back for more here on Locked On Nuggets. Y'all, welcome back to Locked On Nuggets. This is your host, Swiper. I am here with Ryan Blackburn of Mile High Sports and the Alley Oop as well. Y'all, shout out. If you are here watching this on YouTube, make sure you give us a like, share the video, and subscribe to the channel for Locked On. If you're listening to this on Apple iTunes, please give us a 5-star review. That way we can get more and more people listening to the great content here on Locked On Nuggets with myself, Adam Ades, and Matt Moore. Y'all, let's talk some duos. So the Denver Nuggets won the title last year. Everybody said, oh, Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic. Is that the best duo in the playoff? Ryan Blackburn, I think they were like a plus 15 net rating last year through the playoff, which was insanity. And they went 16-4, 30-point triple-doubles in Game 3 of the NBA Finals. First time in NBA history, preseason, regular season, or playoffs. So what's your take on this? Do you think that with the Celtics winning this title, with it being built around Jaylen Brown, with it being built around Jason Tatum, have they taken over the title that's the best duo in the league?
Undoubtedly. Like, there's no doubt in my mind, zero doubt in my mind that they deserve that title. And it's because they're the last team standing. It's because they also faced down an excellent duo in Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving. Did they have an easier path to the finals from the Eastern Conference that was very injured, very sort of bereft of talent that they ultimately faced in their way? Yes, but it doesn't matter because the Celtics have been great from dawn till dusk this season. They had a couple of matchups here that they lost during the regular season, but you just said it, 16-3. We spouted on this podcast and over at the Mile High Sports side of things a whole bunch of crap about, obviously Jokic and Murray are now the best duo. I mean, look at what they did. Look at what they did when it mattered most. The Celtics do get credit, I think. I think it's more credit for having the best starting five. I think they've definitely taken that title away from Denver, but they also get the best duo title because Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, they showed up when it mattered most. And some duos, including Denver's duo, specifically Jamal Murray, did not.
That's an interesting theory. Because you win the title, do you get dubbed best duo? Now, I guess from a you finished the race standpoint, no problem. But I'm not going to lie to you. 22, 8-7 on 38% from the field. 25-5. I don't know. I think the thing is that, yes, I do think you get credit for that. But I just can't jump to that conclusion and say that just unequivocally, you're a +8 in the regular season as a duo. You're a +6 in the playoffs. Now, you do beat the Miami Heat with no Jimmy Butler. And then in the second round, you obviously play versus the team with Donovan Mitchell for 2 games, no Jared Allen. And then you play with the team versus no Hallie for 2 games for the Indiana Pacers. Then you absolutely play against Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving. And I don't know, would you say thoroughly outplayed them?
Yeah.
Yeah, because Kyrie was 19.8 points a game, nowhere to be seen. A few of those games. Luka, I think he averaged 28. Yeah, he just
multiple times.
Wasn't efficient offensively. Really started to wear down. It looks like at the end of the series. So I do think that I understand the public sentiment with that, but just from a cohesion standpoint, how they work together, how they play together, man, I don't think I could put them over Jamal and Joker. I think that. I mean, I know Anthony Davis and LeBron, I realize that people they're in the play-in, this, and that. But, I mean, look, LeBron was incredible, first round. Anthony Davis had his best playoff series maybe since the bubble. Obviously KD, Book. I would say that I would probably have them after this run, 2 to 3. I would be more comfortable with. I just think that like you get a lot from those two. But man, just I don't know how I square that one. And I've had conversations on Players' Choice about this with the Jason Tatum. I think he's a really good player. Again, I have him somewhere between 7 and 12, somewhere around that range. I don't know if he's better than Anthony Davis. I don't know if he's better than LeBron. I don't think they would play this way in the finals. Personally, that's just me.
Sure.
I think that stuff matters. But I don't know. I think how do you square kind of the Tatum's drop off from his regular season to postseason overall performance as a scorer? Now, he did get better as a playmaker. He stepped into that role for sure. But does that matter to you at all?
I mean, not really. They're the team that finished it out. They're the team that won. They went 16-3. I don't think he had to do it as much. I think that there's some burdens that other duos are going to carry that are a little bit heavier just because the Celtics supporting cast is excellent. It's about as good as a supporting cast can possibly get, especially from the 3, 4, and 5, like third, fourth, fifth options in their starting 5. But I do think that they deserve the benefit of the doubt in that they would have shown up in the other matchups. That like they were still the best team, like net rating wise, record wise, playoff wise. Like I think that they had a team that was very well built for much of these matchups, and every team would have struggled with them. Milwaukee would have struggled with them. Philly would have struggled with them. New York, despite the fact that they were showing some spine, where they definitely would have struggled with them too. Like all of these teams, I still think that the Celtics would have shown out and they would have been at the end. Would the matchups have worked out a little bit better where Tatum's efficiency would have been a little bit higher? I don't know. Like, I don't know if it necessarily had to, but it's tough for me because I want to give them the credit while also understanding that, when it comes back around next year, Jokic and Murray may show out and they might be better. Like, what we're really talking about here is Murray. We're not, because we know that we're both acknowledging that Jokic is the best player in the world. Do you still think that Denver has a better duo than Boston?
Yeah, I mean, I've said this to people already, but consensus Jamal Murray coming into the season this year was better than Jaylen Brown. I mean, that was just a consensus, like overall rankings. I think the playoff run obviously had leaned towards that. I think Jaylen Brown didn't perform well in the Eastern Conference Finals. And then Murray, again, say what you want. Murray went out and 32, 5-5, and then 21 and 10 and 7, and then blitzed everybody, and then, so I think some of this is, if you value shot making, dribbling, on ball creation, playmaking, I mean, that's all leans Murray. I think JB's a better defender, obviously, but JB has some clear limitations as an offensive player that really affected them in the playoffs. So the Bleacher Report had him. You said what? But
not these playoffs, clearly, like, to be clear.
No, I mean, I think Jamal in these playoffs, I can't remember what his overall numbers was. No, I don't think Jamal, he averaged 23 and 7 in the first round and then 18.8 and like 6 on terrible splits in the second round. So I do think that obviously matters. I think that at this point, I want to see what happens with Murray, and we can talk about this too. Murray's just I think he's gonna be ready, man. I just think Murray's gonna be ready to come back into the season. My real question is Kyrie and Luka. Do you think there's any chance that the Dallas Mavericks, like, what do you have them squared that they're gonna be in the hunt again next year?
That's a good question. Because if you look at, I think FanDuel's odds had it as the Mavericks as a slightly higher favorite to be the NBA champs next year than Denver. So that's interesting. I don't know the answer. I think that, Luka is about, like, he's I think in the same tier as Jokic as a player. I don't think that Jokic is so outdistanced him that, like, you can say, like, yeah, you could say the Jokic is better, but I think people, when they argue that Luka is better, they're not insane. I think that Kyrie, if you said that Kyrie is better, I think a lot of people would agree with that, especially after these playoffs and the way that Kyrie has played and the way that he showed up pretty consistently with Dallas, especially. Like, I think that there's an argument right they are the better defender, but they're in the same tier.
Ryan, by the way, you I don't know. That's why I want to correct you. FanDuel has Boston next year a plus 300. The Nuggets are second at a plus 750. Dallas is fourth and third in the West at a plus 900.
Okay. I might have looked at a different platform then, but
Yeah.
yeah, no, it's not a surprise to me that they're pretty close, and that I think betting people would probably bet on Dallas and Luka kind of getting back to this place because of where they are, because of the players that they just picked up and how they fit around what Luka and Kyrie do. But I think that it's the burden of proof of this is on Murray. I think
Mm-hmm.
he's got to get back to that level. He's got to play like it during the regular season as well. He's the only one of these guys that we're talking about that hasn't made an all-star team. It's time. It's got to make an all-star team, got to stay healthy, and then replicate it in the playoffs. And I don't think that that's so much to ask, especially for a player that we're talking about could sign for a max contract extension this summer.
Yeah, I'm probably a little different than you in the Joker Luka Doncic comparison. I actually think I think this even the finals just proved that there's I think there's a bigger gap than initially thought at the time. I just think defensively, I think Luka was, I don't know, probably the worst I've seen of maybe any superstar at that level. I think it's just exposure.
Let me
I think
ask you
offense.
this though, like with the way that the Celtics were playing 5 out, how would the Nuggets have dealt with that, especially with Joker being a kind of interior bound center in that case?
Yeah, I think some of this is a little bit of too much of recency bias, given that the Nuggets did play them twice, and I think they did play them well defensively in both of those matchups. And I think what they did was they obviously hit Joker when they needed to down the stretch, put him on Drew Holiday or put him on one of the ball handlers, ask him to contain, force threes. And then they also showed backside, so they did rotate. One of the things that the Mavs didn't do well first couple games is that when they did have Joker play at the level or sink down with the driver, they would kick out. KCP or AG or MPJ would show backside. Then they would recover and they would rotate, and everybody would kind of be schemed and locked in. But it's not even that. I think offensively, Joker just. I mean, again, yes.
Here's the thing. I think in a playoff series, I think Joker gets cooked by Boston in many of those ways. I don't think it's like as bad as Luka was getting cooked. I think Luka was obviously dealing with something physically and clearly.
No, but he got healthy. Luka got healthier as the playoffs went on. That's unacceptable.
Probably got tired too.
That's unacceptable. And then on top of that, offensively, I don't think it was much of a conversation either. I mean,
yeah, and that's probably where the gap is really held. I think that, I do think that Jokic would have killed Boston from an offensive standpoint. That I think is true.
Sure,
I just think that would have been a very.
They would have had to do a lot defensively for sure.
Yeah.
Well, y'all, in segment 3, we're talking about that. Cause that's a part of this. What does this mean for Denver? And where they're headed and where they're going. Because there's some, some questions about the roster and Michael Malone and a bunch of things. GM, the Celtics, Brad Stevens, executive of the year. Joe Mazzulla has proven himself. Now the Celtics win the title. What does this mean for the Nuggets? We're going to talk about all that and more here. Locked On Nuggets.
Go get that ad read. Go get it.
Passion, drive, and patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay's guaranteed fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay guarantee fit only available to U.S. customers. We'll be right back for more here on Locked On Nuggets. Y'all, we are back here for segment 3 on Locked On Nuggets. This is your host, Swiper, with Ryan Blackburn, Mile High Sports. We're talking about the Boston Celtics winning their title last night. We're also talking about the Denver Nuggets and how they need to continue to move forward. Oh, my goodness. This playoff's been interesting. I think the Wolves series showed that they needed a little bit more, especially from their their bench. The starters obviously wore out a little bit, but I think that is supplemented the fact they did not have a bench they felt like they could consistently go to throughout the regular season, and that had them playing so many minutes. Michael Porter obviously struggled as a shooter in the second round after having a just hellaciously good first round series versus the Lakers on 22 points per game on like a 69 true shooting. But as you look at the Celtics title, you look at the Dallas Mavericks making it to the NBA Finals. What do you think this means for Denver? What are some takeaways that you have from what you've seen on maybe some of the things Denver's going to need to do in the near future?
Yeah, not even just like Boston and Dallas, but like the playoffs as a whole. This was a war of attrition, and it felt like that last year as well. But over the course of the past 2 years, it has been a war of attrition from an injury perspective, from a fatigue perspective, from teams not necessarily bringing their best when it's the first round of the playoffs, second round of the playoffs, conference finals, NBA finals. Like, I don't think that we've had peak level basketball in each of these last two playoffs in a lot of ways. I think that so many of these teams and so many players, especially high level players, are just gassed by the end of this thing. And the burden on each of these guys is very high. The 65 game rule, I think, emphasizes that a little bit too. And I think for the Nuggets, it's going to be about bolstering that bench, finding more opportunities for other players to play. It's about not just your top 9 anymore. It's about, hey, can we get 11 guys that play on a reasonably regular basis? Can like our 12th, 13th, 14th, 15th men, can they actually like not play 0 minutes during the regular season? Can they play 200 minutes? Can they play 300 minutes? Like, can we get these guys to bolster the team and keep everybody fresh when they need to be at their best during the playoffs? And I think for Denver, so much of the emphasis on the Nuggets was on the starting lineup being great, was on it being overtaxed, and not having a bunch of options to go to. The Mavericks found options around Kyrie and Luka. They found so many different players, adding Daniel Gafford and PJ Washington during the season, but also like they cycled out a bunch of different players in their rotation during the regular season, trying to figure out what worked. Boston, a little bit more in Denver's side of things, and they're talented enough that they could make it work. But I think about OKC. I think about even Minnesota, like a team that had 8, 9, 10 guys that they could play on a reasonable basis throughout much of the playoff or throughout much of the regular season. I think about all these teams, and I think that Denver could absolutely use reinforcements, and Michael Malone could use a little bit of a chill pill when it comes to bringing Jokic in at the 6-minute gap every time. Like you don't necessarily need to play him 36. You can play him 32. You could play Murray 30. You could play Aaron Gordon 28. You could play Michael Porter 28. Play these guys less time. Get them some more rest.
Some of those numbers, yeah, I mean, 28 for HE, 28 for MPJ.
But why play them more against the Charlotte Hornets? Like, figure out a way to win the game without playing those guys an excessive amount of time. Like, Denver should be trying to take care of business in that regard, and it should be an opportunity to get some of those other guys. Like Hunter Tyson played 47 minutes this year. Jalen Pickett, good Lord, played like 100 and some odd minutes. Like, there's no reason for that to happen again. These guys, they're penciled in for like 11 to 15 roster spots again this year. Find more time for them.
Yeah, I think that's going to be the onus, is that the front office and Malone have to come to an agreement. Malone's going to have to tell them, hey, I'll play these young guys, but you better get me a backup that I can trust at the point guard position and that I can play, next to Jamal. Because if you're going to ask me to do this, then they need to have a veteran on the roster that can do it with them. So
they got to deserve it. Like that's the most important thing, is the guys this year did not deserve to play. And that's why Michael Malone played the starters as much as he did. But they've got to find ways to get bench players that deserve to actually be out there.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's going to be an interesting year for Peyton and for Christian, especially because, look, in a couple, we'll see what they do with Justin Holiday, but, and then Zeke Naji, who knows if he's going to be on the roster or not. But, yeah, they're going to have to get some really quality minutes out of those players. Peyton's going to have to come back better than he was last year. This is going to be a huge Vlatko year. Not having Vlatko also, it's stymied them, I think, because they didn't have a backup four they can go to. And then when Peyton was in the game, he would play four, but then Malone wouldn't always leave him in that spot. Vlaho's going to have to play some real minutes this year unless they go and get another four. I mean, I don't know what they're going to do. We'll see if they want to sharpen that position up a lot, but I think they're going to have to get some real run out of some of these backup players. And again, Reggie Jackson, I don't know if that's going to be the real option, but again, if it's going to be Reggie Jackson, then Jalen Pickett's on the roster, then we need to make sure Jalen Pickett's getting real time because he needs to be developing. Otherwise, he's just been on the roster for 1 year, got no minutes. And then coming into this year, if you need another point guard outside of Reggie Jackson, because Reggie Jackson is nicked up, does Malone trust somebody by game 60 that he can get Jalen in the game? He's going to do what he needs to do, and it's not going to be Colin because Colin's not going to play in the playoffs, and Colin also wasn't drafted on this roster. So I think it's going to be a collection of things. It's Malone trusting the youngins to play and earning those minutes for them, but then also Calvin Booth making sure that you're going to have options on the bench for the coach to trust. Because look, people can say what they want. Sam Hauser came into this NBA Finals and he was good, and he wasn't being taken advantage of on either end. That's the thing. Malone needs that. Give him people that will not be taken advantage of on the defensive end, that will compete. They're going to try, they're going to hustle, and they're going to hit shots when they need to. So, that was the question about Boston. They had Sam Hauser, Luke Cornett, Xavier Tillman, but Sam Hauser and Xavier Tillman played important minutes. Important minutes in this year. When they lost KP, they had Horford and they had Xavier playing. So just again, these are some viable options that they have that the Nuggets are going to need to find for sure.
Luke Cornett, he's doing stuff. Peyton Pritchard making big time half court shots. Like, these guys are contributing, and I mean, for Denver, it's just got to be about easing up the burden and breaking up, my opinion, breaking up the starting five a little bit from a minutes and chemistry perspective, and forcing them to get to know some of these other guys and trying to figure out, hey, how does Jokic navigate lineups that feature Julian Strawther, Peyton Watson, and Michael Porter Jr. together at the same time? What does that look like? And I think that's a really important aspect of this. One other thing about Luka and Tatum is that they both stagger with the second unit. Is that anything? Is it anything that those guys are the ones that are propping up the bench minutes as opposed to the second best player or the third best player or multiple starters? It's just your best dude.
That's kind of tough because Tatum wasn't propping up the bench by himself with just him. It would be like Drew
Holiday.
Holiday.
Okay. During the regular season, and because that's.
Well, I mean, Jokic did. It's just the issue. He does it the last minutes of the first and the third. But I think the question you're asking is maybe in the top of the second quarter. Are you thinking more so extending those minutes into that?
Well, so here's the thing with those minutes is like, okay, you're getting KCP and Jokic playing the same amount of time at the end of the first and third quarter a lot of times. So you're never actually like having them fully stagger with the bench in a lot of these ways. Mm-hmm. What Murray has had to do often is play, okay, it's Murray and four bench guys. And he does it for 4, 5, 6, 7 minutes in a row. And that's just different from like, hey, you've got another starter with you, even if it's just KCP, it's just different. And the responsibilities are there and you don't have to change. Like, I think it would be beneficial because Giannis does this too. Steph did it for a little bit. He hated it. And then they went back. They might have to switch things up again. But like some of these elite stars and like stars on elite teams are doing the stagger with their main guy. I wonder if that's anything that Denver can take away because Jokic has never done it before. He doesn't want to.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not really as concerned about Joker making that adjustment as I am the Nuggets making the adjustment around Jamal with the bench, because I think that's going to be what some of this is, like accentuating his skill set. Joker's kind of proven he can play with anybody, but I don't know. We'll see. That could be an offseason question.
Throw up that comment for Bad Corp. Jamal should stagger with Porter and AG. To me, like the one thing about building rotations as somebody who's done the rotation chart before is like, you don't want to break up too many guys' rotations. It's why Denver does what they do, where they have just one guy staggering. And so you get the rhythms, you get the chemistry with your starting lineup that way. If you just broke up Jokic's minutes and said, hey, this is the key for Denver. It's like, yeah, Jokic is the best floor raiser in the entire NBA. Let's play him with the lineup that sucks. Like, doesn't that make some logical sense? Like, because he can raise that group up to a neutral group and then you figure it out with your starters. Like, isn't that what you're supposed to do?
Well, so the LeBron minutes where he goes out like with the middle of the first quarter, comes back at the end, and it stays in through the top of the second.
Yeah.
Comes back out and then goes back in. So
Yeah.
you're looking at something like that kind of variation.
Yeah, and you could still play 34, 36 minutes that way. It is a different level of emphasis on Joker in that regard, but it takes some pressure off of your bench. Like, think about how much pressure's on them entirely. Give them Jokic, and you start to realize, all right, your areas of improvement may not be so dire if you're willing to do that.
Well, yeah, I mean, but they're going to have to stay healthy too. Like, that's the other thing about this. Julian, Vlaco, whoever else they're going to bring off the bench, they're just going to need a healthy season from those young dudes. And Hunter's going to have to get some run. Jalen can have to get some run. Whoever they draft this year, maybe Holmes, who knows? You know, maybe some stuff on the way about that. You know, they're all going to have to get some run and get some playing time, y'all. But look, that's going to do it for Locked On Nuggets, y'all. Again, this is your dude, Ryan Blackburn, a.k.a. Ryan Sharpburn. This is Swiper, y'all. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe. This is Locked On Nuggets. We'll see you on the other side.